Batton and I have been friends for a few years, and he's asked me to be his interviewer here today. Basically, the first thing I wanted to ask is, were you an attorney in a previous life? Because that's what this feature is about.
Well, just in case, I mean, I'm glad to see a lot of familiar faces, and thanks for coming. But for people that don't know, my characters are attorneys who represent the supernatural and supernaturally afflicted. So, who's scarier than Frankenstein? Who's attorneys? So, as you can imagine, it's a humorous series, and that's probably the second most asked question I get. Am I an attorney? And I'm not. And it was only because the premise of the strip made me go into all sorts of legal research and talking to more attorneys than you ever want to talk to in your life. But no, I'm not an attorney.
Okay. I think the next question would be, did you figure up this strip on the East Coast, or did you do it here on the West Coast?
Oh no, I grew up in Brooklyn. I spent the first part of my life in New York and Brooklyn Heights. The strip I had mentioned about talking to more attorneys than I ever thought I'd talk to began out of necessity. I got the opportunity to do a comic strip for a local newspaper in downtown Brooklyn, which is where all the courts and the municipality is. And I thought if I did a strip about attorneys, at least that audience would be looking at it. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere. It was going to be something I did until my big idea came to me, and when I got into comics. But a year into it, I was having a ball, had a lot of fun, despite the research. And I said, oh my God, this is what I want to do. So that it just grew from there, and it began on the East Coast, and it was picked up by a legal publication a few years after that, also on the East Coast. And it didn't become a comic book until I moved out to San Diego in the early 90s.
Okay, so you say the comic book started in the early 90s. What issue are you on now?
Well, that's a whole other thing that we could talk about a little later, about how the markets have changed the way self-publishing. I'm a self-publisher, by the way. How the market conditions in the comic book industry has changed the way self-publishing is handled. The last issue I did was issue 45, and that's not counting 5 issues of Mavis, which is the spin-off title, and a couple of one-shots here and there.
The reason I was asking how many issues you currently have in this comic book series is that my wife and I attended a book signing of your most recent trade paperback.
Well, funny you should mention that, Michael. It is on sale here. And this is a collection of issues 37 through 40, in addition to a Mavis story and a couple of unpublished things. And it's called The Monsters Meet on Court Street. Court Street being that avenue in downtown Brooklyn I mentioned earlier. So this is the latest, which was done thanks to Kickstarter, by the way. That's something that has its own panel later on today, but we can talk about that a little later on when we open the floor up for questions.
Well, just as a heads up to you, Batton's wife, Jackie Estrada, will be here at 3 o'clock today for the Kickstarter panel program. Okay.
And, right, and she has worked with me on the comic book series. I started the comic strip before I met her, and Comic Book, we both teamed up on it. She's editor and letterer of comic book series. And if you think I get a break, because my wife is the editor, try to pass a joke that's not funny. Ain't gonna happen.
That's good. Okay. I noticed that, well, you had that on the bottom, but I noticed you have another book here, Life Partner of Frankenstein.
This is, yeah, well, this ties in with the last issue I worked on was issue 45. Conditions in comic stores have changed where I don't think a self-publisher like myself can do a bi-monthly black and white floppy. Floppy is like the 32-page comic book. It is just not economically feasible, and there's just not enough stores to support it. So by staying alive, I started doing the strip in addition to collecting it. So I have the best of both worlds. I think things are heading towards digital comics, but print will always be with us. So the idea is you create the content, then you repackage it in little volumes. As you can see, this has a spine, it's color, and I self-published this as well. The reasons for this is that comic stores aren't going to carry a book. There's other markets, libraries, bookstores. However, they won't carry a 32-page saddle stitch floppy. But they will carry things that have a spine and an ISBN number. So there's other ways to get your work out there. Now, I have one of my best retailers here in the audience, and John Berry and Debbie have been tremendously supportive. There's just not enough of them out there. I would say I have like maybe 50 stores that really support me and will order anything I do, and I'm really grateful for that. But there's hundreds of stores, and if they don't order your book, you got to think of a plan B.
Well, talking about Plan B, I noticed you also brought, you showed us a comic book,
Yes.
Simpsons Super Spectacular, so you've done work for Bongo.
Yeah, I do work for Bongo, and I pretty much write the stories of Bart Simpson's favorite character. Does anyone know who's Bart Simpson's?
Radioactive.
Thank you, yes. So within the Simpsons universe, there's also a Radioactive Man comic, which I write. And this is the current one where I was lucky enough to do a Doctor Strange parody and get Frank Brunner to draw it. Old timers here might remember him from doing some of the classic Doctor Strange stories. And I also do work for Archie Comics, which is, I have to admit, a big kick to do. And those are occasional jobs that I'm thrilled to get, but Archie's sort of been in flux lately, so not much has been coming from them. But Bongo's been kind of steady. But I'd much rather go back to my thing.
Right. Talking about Archie Comics, you also did the Archie Meets the Punisher.
Oh yeah, Archie. In fact, that is my horn blows at midnight, because the Archie meets. Well, now it's almost 20 years ago, and I've got kids coming up to me today saying, "I heard you did something called Archie Meets the Punisher. Is that true? Did that really happen?" And I can say yes, it did happen. In 1994, Archie and Marvel Comics did a crossover where the Punisher went to Riverdale and met Archie and the gang, and I wrote that, and for better or worse, that kind of put me on everyone's radar. So they knew who I was, and I was able to use that as a way to get attention to Supernatural Law, which I was just beginning to publish as a comic book. So that they couldn't get rid of me. I was like that fly that couldn't get rid of me.
Going back to your work, Supernatural Law had a different title at the beginning. What was it, and why did you change it?
It was called Wolfenberg Counselors of the Macabre, and that's still kind of its unofficial title. The characters are still Helena Wolf and Jeff Bird, and they're still Counselors of the Macabre. I changed it because in the the late 90s, Universal Pictures took an option on the property, and they felt Wolfenberg didn't mean anything to anyone. And I had to agree with them with that, because when I was trying to sell it as a comic book, the first 23 issues was called Wolfenberg Counselors of the Macabre. First of all, the title was too long for anyone to fit into a catalog. So it was always Wolfenberg, and they always spelled Wolf wrong. It's spelled with two F's, not with one F, not with an E. And they always spelled bird wrong. It's with a Y, not an I. Or worse, they called it Wolfenberg Counselors of the Macabre. Those are my accountants, so they had nothing to do with the strip. But Universal said, well, the title of one of your collections was called Supernatural Law. Why don't we just call it that? And I thought, that sums it up right away. Because when you say Wolfenberg, at the time, Dark Horse was publishing a comic called Wolf in Red. So there was more confusion. But Supernatural Law, people were like, I think I get the concept right from the title. So that's why I changed it. So, and I know with my luck, I'm under another option that they're going to say, let's call it Wolfenberg. So we'll be back full circle.
Talking about options, you mentioned about a movie. How's that going? Is the option still out there?
Well, How long do we have here? Yeah, well, I'm happy to say another option has been picked up, but the movie option, that's a whole other story, and I'll try and make it very succinct. The thing, you know, it's a learning curve, because when I was approached by Universal to do a Wolfenberg movie, of course I was very excited and talked about the Universal monsters being in it, and it was, yeah, we'll do it, that'd be great. We'd love to revive those characters. And it was all great. I would say it was wonderful for the first 6 months. And then it began to go downhill rapidly. And for 5 years, they kind of, there was many scripts, many rewrites. The Universal monsters kind of receded in the background, and they created the new monsters for the clientele. I even did an issue. I don't have it downstairs, unfortunately. But in issue 44, I did Wolfenberg the movie as a comic, where I fictionalized my experience. But all the scenarios that are pitched to my characters were really pitched to me. And this is the thing about movies. If you notice, every movie has to be larger than life. Like, it's just not enough. I mean, my characters are very buttoned down, low-key. Anyone who has read it, it's a very dry, I think, approach to it. But a movie's got to be big and spectacular, and it wasn't enough that Wolfenberg won a case. They had to save the world. And, well, you know, I don't have a Wolfenberg universe. I have more like a Wolfenberg neighborhood. You know, it's very small potatoes, my thing. And the movie was just clashing with that outlook. Plus the characters was changed, and here's something for you women in the audience that you should be aware of, that despite their lip service, they told me that we cannot have Elena Wolf as the lead. Jeff Bird has to be the lead. And I go, well, why is that? They go, because women do not lead a genre movie. And so I said, well, what about aliens? By the way, this is before Underworld, if I got that title right. I go, what about Alien? That's the exception. That was a fluke. And it's like, well, some fluke, it's like a sensation. So right away we clashed with that, and the characterizations were bothering me. So it just became just bad news. And when they decided not to renew the option, I felt that it was one of those cases of, you're not going to renew. Well, I wasn't going to renew either. So it was a good parting of the ways. But it got to a point where it was heat-seeking concepts, where whatever was the big box office that weekend, that was the approach they were going to take with Wolfenberg. Like when Spy Kids, and I'm not kidding about it, Spy Kids made it big one weekend. They go, how about this? Wolfenberg are kids. And they're kid warriors. And I said, okay. I said, no, I'd rather not. And when Jennifer Lopez was in some big movie of that weekend, how about Jennifer Lopez as Elena Wolf? And it's like, well, no. She was in a movie where she played a psychiatrist, I think, The Cell. You remember that one? I didn't believe for a moment she knew what she was talking about when she was talking about, like, well, it's obvious his dreams represent the Freudian, it's like, Jennifer, I don't understand it, I know you don't understand it, so I didn't think she was right for that part either. But I think the worst was, and this was really trying to say goodbye, they said, oh, by the way, an expression I've learned to hate, let's think outside of the box. Once you hear that, run for the hills, because you're going to hear something that is going to aggravate you. They said, let's think out of the box, just a wild idea. We got to get this picture off the ground. Okay, what is it? Wolfenberg are not attorneys. It's like, well, that's the whole concept. They go, no, they literally defend monsters. Like, they go in and they fight, like, with swords. and they're fighting the bad monsters against the good monsters. That's when I got my lawyer on speed dial, and it ended from that. P.S., a year and a half later, that movie was made, and it's called Van Helsing. And we saw how well that is. So, and again, it's like, I don't know, they seem to be a little ashamed of their heritage, everyone loves the Universal monsters, but I think they feel a little embarrassed or they're too old-fashioned looking. And you know, my feeling was, just tweak it a little. You don't have to, look what, up until recently, look how DC handled Superman and Batman. You just tweak it a bit and you contemporize it. The basic look and concepts are solid, but they keep reinventing the wheel. But meanwhile, a television producer is interested in Wolfenbird, and I think TV is a much better medium for my characters and the concept, because you get more intimate with TV, and it's smaller. So that's part of my Hollywood experience.
Okay. Well, that's the first I had heard of the TV, so that's good to hear. When I say it's the first I've heard, I've seen Batton and Jackie now. Let's see, they're downstairs today. We've already seen them down below today. Artist Alley. Your table number is?
2201, if anyone's interested in coming by.
Saw you just 2 weeks ago at San Diego Comic Fest. Saw you earlier this year at Comic Consi. I know that you have a website that you sell your product at. It appears that you're showing up at more shows.
Well, it's convenient. Yeah, I mean, it's always great to be invited to a show. That helps a lot. They either send you in or pick you up for a hotel and everything. So it helps. I mean, I found out that, and this is for anyone interested in self-publishing or any independent artists out there, nothing succeeds like pressing the flesh and meeting people. You connect with them. I mean, that's how I met John and Debbie. I just met them cold, and they had come, and Mike and Tina as well. And that is, to me, the best way to do it. If I had my druthers, I would do a whistle stop up the coast and go to every comic store or a small convention, because I think that's very exciting. I mean, everyone knows who Dave Sim is, right? Cerebus, we all know who he is. He was a pioneer, self-publisher, and he did a thing. He would do like he was Canadian, so he would call his American tour, where he would tour the country and do comic shops. I always found that very exciting, and I would still love to do that one day, but only to the shops that support me. There's 50 of them.
Well, that's pretty good.
No, I think it's great, but it's still not enough to stay in business. See, the comic, you know, I always wanted to be a cartoonist, but part of being a cartoonist, especially when you're in business for yourself, is just that. It's got to be a business that keeps generating money, and you know, there's good days and there's bad days, and you know, lately there's been a lot of bad days, so that's where the good people in Riverdale come in, and same thing with Springfield, where they help pay the bills quite a bit. But don't mistake this for complaining. I mean, I just really enjoy what I'm doing, but you've got to always be on and changing the gears, you know, like Charlie Chaplin and Modern Times. You just got to keep making sure everything's moving.
Okay, well, talking about moving, is there any other topic you'd like to talk about before I open it up for Q&A?
I went to my webcomic, which is in color, which has added a whole new enthusiasm. See, I've been doing this strip since '79, and it started as a newspaper strip. And I know that predates most of you in the audience here, but it started as a newspaper strip in black and white, and that was exciting. Then I always wanted to do a comic book, and that was great to expand the characterizations and do a comic book. It was, you know, it's just great to do. Now on the web, I could do it in color, and boy, I can't go back to black and white. So to me, it's always been a fresh, I'm always excited the day I wake up and say, I could work on Superman work. So it's always a fun thing to work on, and there's always different avenues and markets, and that's an important thing to try to sell it as well as having fun with it.
It kind of brings up a topic I just remembered. You recently moved your studio from where you were for many years to another location.
Yeah.
How's that working out?
All right. It's I was in downtown San Diego for 18 years, and that was fine until the building was condemned. Then I had to move on. But from San Diego here, in San Diego, okay. If you're ever around Autumn's Avenue, stop by. It's a new experience, and I feel like I'm back in art school, because my studio is part of a gallery, an art gallery. So there's a lot of artists there. The smell of linseed oil is in the air all the time. A lot of traffic. My old studio was just me and another guy who I wasn't quite sure what he did, but I would always see these wild-looking girls going into his office with him. So I think that he told me he was a stockbroker from New York. Okay, but and I'm convinced that the office was his booty call office. But and so it was just me and him up there. But here there's a lot of traffic, a lot of people going in and out. So it's exciting.
Well, now I'm going to open it up to the floor.